Your Majesty, Your Excellencies, and my loving sister Elsie, for revealing a deep secret about our joint mission to Mars, which will be launched in 5 years' time. Let me begin by expressing our profound appreciation to the World Economic Forum for having convened this forum and gathering and bringing it to South Africa. Thank you also for having all of you here as participants in this forum, coming from across the continent and as far afield as the various places that you have come from, the various continents in the world. You have enriched the debates, the discussions, and indeed you have also brought a great deal of life to some of the views that have been expressed here, particularly views that revolve around the challenges that are to be found, that are there in Africa, but more importantly, the opportunities that abound on our continent. This forum has underscored the broad consensus amongst policymakers, who are largely politicians, business leaders, and many of you are here, development practitioners, a number of people from a variety of non-governmental organizations have been here and making meaningful and really outstanding inputs, and civil society activists representing communities and a number of other sectors in our various countries. All of us have had the consensus that the continent needs to pursue a path of accelerated economic growth, but growth that is sustainable, but more importantly, the type of growth that is inclusive. The people of this continent must not only share in the benefits of this growth, but they must, as a people, also own, control, and direct the levers of economic activity on the continent. From the discussions that have taken place, including some that I've had the privilege of participating in, there is an understanding of a great deal of urgency that needs to be injected in everything that we do, particularly to address the issues of exclusion, of inequality that continues to rage on our continent, but also unemployment, and to hear tales of how the young people on our continent continue to be without jobs, to be economically inactive, is a matter that should concern all of us. Underpinning all these discussions, in my view, there is a fundamental imperative. It has been covered in a number of sessions that addressed this fundamental imperative. It is this fundamental imperative that is the critical guarantor, in my view, of sustained and sustainable inclusive growth on the African continent. It is this imperative that will, in the end, transform Africa from a continent of promise into being a continent of prosperity. This imperative, which must inform our every policy and indeed our every action, is the development of the mind and the capabilities of those people, that cohort, that will inherit the outcomes of all the endeavors that we put into the future of the African continent today and tomorrow. For it is in the mind of the African child that the future of this continent really finally resides. It is only by developing the capabilities of our young people that we will achieve the inclusive economic growth that we so aspire to have. It is only by developing the intellectual capacity of the African workforce of the future that we will be able to effectively exploit our abundant resources for the benefit of the people of this continent, and in the end, be able to seize the opportunities of the fourth industrial revolution. Without doing this, much of what we could be looking at could be a pipe dream. The development of Africa's children and its youth needs to be at the center of all our economic policies. This means that we must give just as much attention to the maternal health as we do to the expansion of free trade areas. It means that we must invest as much in early childhood development as we do in energy, communications, and infrastructure. It means we must act with urgency to end AIDS, TB, malaria, and other diseases of poverty, not only so that we may save lives, but also so that the people of this continent should be able to prosper. In the main, we need a comprehensive overhaul of our approach to education. Not only do we need to prepare our children for the workplace of tomorrow, we need to nurture on this continent the young people that will shape the industries of tomorrow, particularly as we enter the fourth industrial revolution. The work that is being done to promote science and innovation in Africa through initiatives like the Coalition for Research and Innovation, and which is being championed by the World Economic Forum, is contributing directly to this effort. By building networks of knowledge across the continent, by pooling resources, and by developing shared research capacity across different African countries, we are creating a new scientific ecosystem. As we pursue new standards of excellence in research and learning, we need to work more deliberately to ensure that we broaden access to education to all the people on this continent. We need, in particular, to focus on the education of girls and young women, addressing the social, cultural, and economic factors that continue to limit their access to education in many countries. We need to ensure that the rural poor on our continent, migrant communities, and those displaced by conflict are also able, even as they go through very trying and difficult situations, are also able to access quality education. We need to ensure that higher education does not become the preserve of the emerging middle class on our continent. Education must reduce inequality, and it must not be an instrument that perpetuates it. We know that Africa has an abundance of opportunities. We have extensive mineral resources under the soil, and along our shores. We have vast tracts of unused arable land that could feed the entire world. We have a young population and a fast-growing middle class, yet our people will not be able to realize the full benefit of these opportunities unless we act now to develop this human capacity I'm referring to. The mineral resources we have, though abundant, are resources that are finite. They are prone to massive fluctuations in demand as well as price. Unless we have the technology, the knowledge, and the industrial capacity to beneficiate these mineral resources, our people will only derive a fraction of their true economic value. We need, as responsible leadership, to take a long view on all these matters. And we need to address the challenges of the present, but we also need to equip the next generation to address the challenges of the future that belongs to them. Our attention now needs to be on our ability to take action on deliverables. When we convene again in 2018, somewhere on this continent, we need to demonstrate the gains for all our people, but more importantly to the youth of this continent. We need to demonstrate how the economic status